All right, everybody, with that being said, I want to move on to a viewer question that I received a while back but haven't gotten around to answering. It's a very simple question. They ask, should blind people be allowed to own guns? Wouldn't it be way too dangerous for blind people to own guns? If you can't see a target or know what you're shooting at, you can't possibly be safe with a firearm. So why would they have them? A lot of people will use an analogy and say, well, they can't drive cars. They have to pass an eye test to be able to drive a car, so obviously they shouldn't be allowed to have guns. And that's their logic. Well, I completely disagree with that. I think blind people should be allowed to own guns. For one, owning a gun is a constitutional right. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say people have a right to drive a car. Although I do believe people do have a right to drive a car. They have a right to exercise that privilege. They have a right to use the roadways, etc. But driving a car is very dangerous. Far more dangerous than guns. That's one of the things people on the left love to ignore. Cars kill more people. Cars are far more dangerous. If anyone did want to kill a group of people or a crowd of people, a car could do it just as easily as a gun. In fact, easier in some ways because you can get away right afterwards quickly if you do it right. Most shootings, especially mass shootings, don't end well for the shooter. They end up with a bullet in their head, usually self-inflicted or by police. Whereas you could actually run over some people on a sidewalk and get away. It's kind of like how bombs are better, in my opinion, because you can get away. But the whole idea that guns are as dangerous as cars is just not true. When people operate a car out on a public street, that's very dangerous. High rate of speed. You got to be reacting to things constantly. Guns are not the same. A blind man can have a gun on his belt, and he may not be able to see, and there's different levels of blindness. Let's remember that. My father is legally blind, but he can drive a car with his glasses on, but with them off, he's legally blind. So we got to remember there's different levels there. But even if you're total blackness blind, total darkness, I should say, blind. I don't want to assume your race. You can still own a gun. For one, it's your constitutional right. And since when do we start taking away constitutional rights from people just because they have a disability? Should we take away the First Amendment right from people who are deaf because maybe they didn't hear all the information before they started talking? No, of course we shouldn't. And the Second Amendment is important for self-defense and for other things where people can be useful. But maybe a blind man's not going to be your sniper if you ever form a militia. But let's look at the same blind man if he's ever attacked by someone. You don't have to have the gift of sight to know someone just grabbed you and threw you to the ground and is now punching you in the head for no reason. And it doesn't take sight to be able to pull a gun and shoot someone at close range who's on top of you. And in fact, blind people are often seen as potential victims because they have a disability. They're not going to be able to fight back as easily. So I believe blind people should have every right to carry a gun for self-defense, because if they do find themselves in a situation where suddenly they're being attacked, even whether it's something that, they saw coming or didn't, not to use the wrong terminology there, but, they anticipated it because of things going on around them, like maybe they're in a bad situation and they can't get away, or if it's just all of a sudden and they didn't see it coming. They still should have a right. Someone's on me, someone's attacking me, I've got a gun in my waistband, I'm going to pull it and fire because my life is in danger right now. Why should they not have that right because they're blind? I don't see any reason whatsoever. Now, if they go out and do something stupid, like if someone says, that guy over there is going to kill that baby, and then they go, well, I'll take care of it, and they pull out their gun and they start shooting in the wrong direction into a grade school or something, well, then you hold them accountable for that action because they did something irresponsible. But that's how you handle things like this. If someone who's blind owns a gun and uses it for self-defense up close and does it successfully, no damage has been done, no law's been broken. If they do something irresponsible that's outside their capabilities and they cause harm to others, well, then, of course, they'll be held responsible for that. But that's not justification from taking away the right entirely from all of them. So, of course, I believe when you ask me if blind people should be allowed to have guns, I say definitely. Blind people might need guns more than some other people do simply because some people see them as a target.